How you doing? Thanks for signing up and becoming a Patreon. So I had a bit of a walk around the yard, and I think that there's possibly 2 Roberts in the yard. So consider this, yeah, it's as much information as I can find on the boats that are sitting here at the moment, and then I'll go through and I'll show you the blog and everything of this one that did the Northwest Passage as well. So I'll spin the camera around. This is the beast right behind me. I'll just spin it around and I'll show you what we've got. So a bit of a disclaimer. I'm not 100% certain if this is a Roberts, but it's a very, very similar hull shape. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a Roberts. It's quite big. It's probably, it'd be at least 55 feet long, I'd guess, maybe 50 feet, something like that. Obviously it's not significantly heavy because there's not a huge amount of boat under the water, but it's steel obviously because there's, you know, rust lines and various things like that coming off it. It's been here for a while. You can sort of see it's got fairly nice clean entry at the front here. Bit of a bowsprit there, sort of twin supports either side of that anchor there. I bet that's a nightmare when you're anchoring on an angle. Fairly small prop, but you know, it's a yacht, they have small wee little props. So it gives you an idea. These guys have got davits. I'll show you around the other side in a sec, but you can sort of see they've built a frame for their dinghy. I think it's a pretty cool idea, but you'd almost want to have them swing out of the way when you lift the dinghy up and then swing them back underneath the dinghy, because I imagine that's probably quite difficult to actually get the dinghy up and over. And they've obviously, on that dinghy, they've added a fin. You can see all the way down the bottom of the, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but you can see all the way down the bottom they've added a piece of aluminium so it sticks down maybe, I don't know, 2.5–3 inches or something. That'll obviously help locate it in those davits, which is kind of a cool idea, I suppose. It looks like they use a crane, so it looks like a rotating crane to actually spin it around. It's actually quite a big voluminous boat. You look at that back end, there'll be a cabin down the back. There'll be a lot of room inside that. It's a relatively low deck for the amount of freeboard it's got. It's a relatively low deck, which will restrict the amount of room you've got inside. But you know, it's a really high cabin as well, so it's a, you know, combo motor sailor type thing. It's not a huge amount more I can show you on this one. It's a ketch rig. You can sort of see it's twin masts, nice open array radar up the top there. Kind of nice, quite nice looking masts on it. They're fairly small, like fairly skinny masts, which is good for upwind performance. You can sort of see that mizzen there is quite thin. The main, it's a bit hard to get an angle on this main. There's a fence right beside me, but yeah, that main's not too bad in terms of design either. Looks like they've anti-fouled their anchor. These guys have got rod rigging on the, so you can see. So these stays, basically there's this one coming down here on either side, and then there's one coming back here on either side. That's actually solid stainless bar. So yeah, in the racing wheel that's called rod rigging. And then up on the side here, all of their stays are just, you know, standard stainless steel wire. Yeah, that's obviously cheaper than rod rigging, but rod rigging you can get stronger. It's a stronger piece of rigging for a smaller diameter, so they use it in the racing wheel to basically reduce top end windage. So this is another one which I think is a Roberts. I think I've got more chance of this one being a Roberts, I think. Again, twin rig, a ketch rig, TV antenna and a radar up there. So this is a rear cockpit model. There's obviously less room in the back end once you have a cockpit sort of hanging down. It's a slightly smaller boat, this one. I think this is probably, I don't know, 50 foot. Oh, it's still a reasonable size, maybe 50 foot. It's a much better condition boat. So it's still steel. You can sort of see up, not sure if you can see it out there, but you sort of see little rust stains and stuff coming down from the scupper. So it's definitely still a steel boat. Nice clean underwater lines. It's quite a nice build. Nice big deep rudder on it. So you don't often see this. This is not the sort of shaft that you'd normally see on a yacht. Yachts are much more basic. This is something that you'd sort of see on a commercial type boat. It's a different type of shaft seal. And then you can see the little grub screws here. There'll be a bearing in there, and these grub screws actually hold that bearing in. Most yachts don't have something that elaborate. I've obviously put this boat together with some bigger intentions, I suppose, maybe serviceability or something like that. You can see the prop is slightly offset. If you have a look at that, I'm pretty much down the centre line there, and see how the shaft is slightly offset. That's awesome, because it means that you can, if you ever want to take your propeller shaft out, you can just take this prop off, and then your shaft will come out beside your rudder. You don't actually have to take your rudder off. It's quite common in boats to actually have to remove the rudder in order to be able to actually, you know, access your prop shaft or anything like that. It's pretty well looked after, this thing. Yeah, there's a lot of stainless around it. You can see you got the scupper just here, and then that lip all the way along is actually stainless rod welded on, which is a nice touch on yachts. You can tell there's, I always sort of think of it as there's two types of steel boats. There's those that are made out of steel for cost and all that sort of stuff, and they don't really give a shit about how easy it is to maintain. And then there's those that you can see here, they've got a lot of stainless welded on, all of the bow roller and everything's all stainless. That's kind of the second type of steel boat, is those that use stainless wherever something's going to touch it. So if there's going to be a rope going over the side, you're better off to put a bit of stainless underneath where that rope would go. Doesn't matter if you chip or wear off the paint on the stainless, it doesn't really cause you any grief. Nice big anchor rollers there, roller furler and everything on there. So it's quite a clean boat underwater. In terms of design, it's quite a nice design. There's not like, it's hard chine, so you've got these edges all the way down here. Oh, where are we? Sorry, on the video there. You've got these edges that come all the way down, and then another one down like this. Hard chine like that, it makes it easier to build. They also give you slightly more stability in the water, so the boat has a little bit more stability when she heels over. The downside is they have slightly more drag than like a round bilge boat like this thing here. Is more of a racing design, and you can sort of see how it's quite rounded but also very flat underneath. The flat bottom promotes speed downwind, and the roundedness makes them less draggy, if that makes sense, when you're going upwind or downwind. On a cruising boat that doesn't really matter so much. You'd go with hard chine mainly just because it's a lot easier to build. Obviously had a bow thruster, but they've pulled that out for some reason. Yeah, these guys here have got in terms of design, so this is your keel. They've obviously, when they built it, they've obviously welded a fairly, looks like 1/2 inch steel pad on the bottom, and that's formed the basis of their keel, which is kind of a good idea, because it basically allows you to have a big flat shoe. Makes the boat really stable when you're out on the hard. And then looking at this, it looks like they've welded I don't know, maybe 1.5 inch diameter pipe down onto the shoe, and then they've put the steel sides all the way around, and then I would imagine cast lead or something into that steel. It's actually got a wee bit of a wobble on it, which suggests to me that it would have, yeah, it actually dimples in, so it suggests to me they probably have poured the lead into it, and as it's cooled it sucked that steel in. That's okay, and that's pretty normal, and then you can either fear it, or in this case you can just leave it like what they have. You can see they've welded, there's sort of lines along here. I don't know if you can quite make that out in the video. There's another one along there as well. Those lines are basically welds where they've they've obviously sealed off that lead inside that keel, so they can, because obviously you can't paint it. Once you pour it in there, it's too hard to get paint on the steel or whatever, and you can't paint it and then pour the lead in, because all the paint will just burn out. So that's a good way of sort of sealing it off and making sure you don't have any rust to deal with in there. So I'll come back and I'll get you a good shot of this boat. So this is the boat that we're just looking at. So it's quite a clean, nice boat. You'd probably want to put a Dodger or something on that if you were doing some serious cruising in it, but it's a nice layout. Yeah, it looks actually to have similar amount of room as that first one that I showed you. Just doesn't have as high a freeboard, but obviously the first one had the scuppers were halfway down the freeboard, so you could tell the deck was probably no higher than this one. So yeah, this would be a nice boat. There's a big main on that front mast. You can sort of see there's quite a big gap between the two masts. Yeah, it suggests it's probably pretty well balanced without having to use the mizzen all the time.
This boat here is called Fine Tolerance. This is when it went across the Northwest Passage. I can't do anything other than put the link address in the details on the YouTube clip, so have a look in there, and there's heaps and heaps of information about setting up their boat to do this trip.
So I wanted to do the boat tour as well and show you all of the robots that I can find in the yard, but I also wanted to do I suppose an introduction and let you know what you actually get for being a Patreon of Brupeg. So because you're signed up now, you have first access to all of our digital content, so you can see all of our back issues first on Patreon before you see them anywhere else. The things that go out to YouTube and so on are normally delayed by quite a bit, so the episodes get released to Patreon first, and then after a while they get staggered out to YouTube and Facebook. You also have direct access to us, so now that you're a Patreon, you have the ability to contact us anytime, and we can interact with you as much as we can. We send video responses, so like this, if you've got a question, if you want to see something on Brupeg, or you want to understand or know more about how we're doing any of our build, maybe any of the fabrication stuff to help you with your build, let us know. That's the sort of questions that we can go through, and we can let you know how we dealt with it. We also do quick updates, so quick updates are exclusive to Patreon. And every sort of 3 to 4 days we'll release a quick update that basically lets you know what we're working on, and what we've got planned going forward for maybe the next 4 days or so, and also how like a recap on what happened since the last quick update, so what worked, what didn't, all of the wins and losses, that sort of thing. And as a Patreon, you kind of get a real behind the scenes look as to what it takes to build Brupeg. So yeah, hopefully it'll give you an idea as to what it'll be like building your own boat, and hopefully you can learn from some of the stuff we've done and save yourself a bit of time when you get into doing yours. Our Patreons are often really involved, so we've got guys that are ice pilots that have gone up around, navigated boats up around in the polar Arctic Circle, that sort of thing. We've also got fabrication guys. They often chip in with with information or ask questions about what we're doing with the fabrication sides of things. We've got people that are just keen on being adventurers, so please get to know us, and we really want to get to know you and interact with us, and yeah, definitely we want to sort of respond back and really build the community around Brupeg. And likewise, when you start building your boat, get us involved, send us photos, and we're keen to show video of our Patreons projects and boats and things like that on our episodes as well. So if you ever want any publicity around that sort of thing, let us know what you're doing. We'd love to get involved with that as well. Thanks very much. Cheers.